हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम बैक टू माय चैनल। आज की इस वीडियो में हम डिस्कस करेंगे लर्निंग प्रोसेस को, जो कि बेस्ड रहेगा निos के जो डीएलएड स्टडी मटेरियल है उस पर। ये वीडियो काफ़ी यूज़फुल रहने वाली है आगे आने वाले टीचिंग एग्ज़ाम्स के लिए। तो चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर लीजिए और बेल आइकन को प्रेस कर दीजिए ताकि आगे आने वाली वीडियोज़ का नोटिफिकेशन आपको टाइमली मिल सके। तो वीडियो को स्टार्ट करते हैं। प्रोसेस ऑफ लर्निंग। Given below are some statements about learning for you to read and ponder. Learning is the process of being modified more or less permanently by what happens in the world around us, by what we do, or by what we observe. Learning is the process by which behavior is originated or changed through training procedure. Learning is a process by which the individual acquires various habits, knowledge, and attitude that are necessary to meet the demands of the life in general. Learning is relatively permanent change in personality and reflects a change in performance usually brought about by practice, although it may arise from insight or other factors including memory. These statements lead us to understand learning in three broad ways. Learning can be considered as the relatively permanent modification of behavior, acquisition of habits, knowledge, and attitude necessary to meet the demands of life, the relatively permanent change in personality. The characteristics of learning process are learning is a continuous process. From childhood, every human being tries to change his or her behavior, thinking, attitude, interest, etc. continuously to fit himself or herself to the ever changing conditions of life. Learning is goal directed. Every human being aspires to achieve some goals in his or her life. These goals may be achieved through learning. If there is no goal to achieve, then there would be no necessity of learning. Learning is intentional. Since an individual sets a goal to achieve, he or she has to deliberately do some activity to attain the goal. If he or she does not have any intention to reach the goal or is quite casual about it, then it is difficult to reach the goal, and in that sense learning is weak or may not take place at all. Learning is an active process. One has to perform some activity, maybe physical or mental or both, to learn something. Mind has to remain active to acquire new experience. Otherwise, no learning can take place. Learning is individualistic. You might have observed that in a class, there are some students who learn more quickly while others learn slowly. In fact, the pace of learning differs from person to person. Is the outcome of the interaction of the individual with the environment. As a teacher, you have to organize the environment carefully to motivate the students so as to interact with you, peer students, and teaching learning materials. Learning is transferable. Learning in one situation can be used to solve problems in another situation. Learning of mathematics, science, social science, and language helps the child to perform different activities in their real life. Learning. You may have observed that some people learn driving or swimming or cooking easily, while some others do not. Why this happens? What could be the reasons for individuals to differ with respect to how and what they learn? To find answers to these questions, let us try to understand the various factors affecting learning. Learning and maturation. Maturation is related to the process of growth. It describes changes that are relatively independent of the environmental influence and are assumed to be closely related to the influence of heredity. Learning, on the other hand, is shaped primarily by individuals' interaction with the immediate environment. For example, beginning to walk depends on the maturation of certain muscle groups and on increasing control over their movements. But without the opportunity to practice various skills involved in um, walking, environment, and learning, one may not walk at all. Similarly, although to start speaking is mostly influenced by maturation, one cannot speak fluently and meaningfully without proper practice and training, which is essentially influenced by learning. We also know that it is impossible to make a 6 months old baby learn multiplication table until a certain level of mental maturation is reached. Readiness to learn. While transacting learning material in the classroom, you must have come across a pupil to be non attentive. You become annoyed with him or her when he or she does not respond to your questions. Why does this happen? Have you ever inquired about the pupil? Well, due to many reasons which may be psychophysical or social, the pupil may not be prepared to learn. There are various types of readiness, some relating to physical maturation, like one cannot join a race if he or she is not capable of walking, some to the development of intellectual skills and the acquisition of background information, like one cannot multiply if one does not know addition of numbers, and some to motivation. Mental readiness of the pupil is essential for learning. For example, in case of language learning, it is not expected from a child to learn difficult words and sentences at early stage of learning. Similarly, for physical activities like typewriting, dancing, etc., requires physical readiness of the pupil. Effective learning takes place when the pupil is ready to learn. Hence, to determine readiness, you need to have some knowledge of children's emotional and intellectual development. Learning environment. For education in school to be effective, the environment needs to be conducive to learning, allowing the pupils space and time to interact within the learning and teaching process. Creating and maintaining stimulating learning environments can be achieved through effective classroom organization, interactive and whole school displays, and a climate of innovation. Imagine the following two classroom situations. In one school, the classroom is small, where around 40 children are sitting without adequate space for free movement. The light and ventilation in the room is also not adequate. In the extreme heat and in the crowded room, the children are sweating and making noise. Due to lack of space, there is no trace of any teaching learning materials in the room. The teacher is literally shouting to maintain discipline in the class. In another school, nearly same number of students is engaged in various activities in a spacious, clean and well ventilated classroom. The walls are tastefully decorated with learning materials. The teaching learning materials are properly stored and are available in plenty to the children. The teacher is friendly and understanding. Take a moment to think which of the above situations is conducive to effective learning and why. Also think of your own school days. What memories stand out? What activities gave you more satisfaction in the process of learning? Probably field trips, group activities or group work, project or learning activities outside the classroom and in the community and society might have given you more satisfaction. In reality, conducive learning environments do not just happen. It needs to be created by considering the physical environment like the size of the classroom, the color of the wall, type of flooring, ventilation and light, as well as effective classroom management that establish and maintain work systems for pupils to engage in their learning. Safe, attractive and comfortable child-friendly environment help children engage in the activities you offer. Learning and motivation. Motivation refers to the force originated or generated in the individual which sustains, directs, and controls the activities of the pupil till the goal is achieved. There are two types of motivation: intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation refers to motivation that is driven by an interest or enjoyment in the task itself and exists within the individual rather than relying on an external pressure. Intrinsic motivation is based on taking pleasure in an activity rather working towards an external reward. Intrinsic motivation results in high quality learning and creativity. For example, preparing any project in science or mathematics may give pleasure to the pupil, as a result of which he or she is motivated to undertake similar activities on his or her own. Extrinsic motivation refers to the performance of an activity in order to attain an outcome and comes from outside of the individual. For example, a student who does his homework only because he or she fears parental dissatisfaction for not doing it is extrinsically motivated because he or she is doing the work in order to attain the separable outcome of avoiding parental dissatisfaction. Common extrinsic motivations are rewards like money and grades. Parents and teachers often reward their child for successful completion of learning tasks. तो आई होप आपको पसंद आई होगी. प्लीज़ इसे लाइक एंड शेयर ज़रूर कीजिएगा. थैंक्स फॉर वॉचिंग.